Welcome to the Irish NFL Show, brought to you in association with QuinnBet. Well, the thing about the divisional round is, as the name suggests, it's all about division, dividing between the strong and the weak, the lucky and the unlucky, the bold and the meek. And so, only 4 teams are left standing. We have our AFC and NFC Championship matchups. Kieran O'Donovan, Kieran Boyle and me, Conor Brophy, here to recap the weekend's action. We start, though, lads, with some fallout from the results over the weekend. A fifth fall of Buffalo, you might say, if you're familiar with the ESPN documentary, Four Falls of Buffalo. Unfortunately, did not go well for the Bills over the weekend. And Kieran Boyle, they fired Sean McDermott. We got to say one thing, like there's several things about this that stick in my craw. And one that we've been back and forth on the show and in the infamous show WhatsApp group is Brandon Beane, the Bills GM, was clapping back on talk radio in New York earlier this year, goes on air to shout down to sports jocks in New York saying, we drafted all defense because we had one of the best offenses in the league last year. Offense wasn't the problem, blah, 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 blah. I say this to Brandon Beane. You get yourself a Luther Burden or an Emeka Egbuka or one of those other receivers that was available in the draft instead of one of those defensive picks, your team's probably going to the Super Bowl this year. But you got promoted and you fired your head coach.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I may go off on GMs a little bit in this broadcast, but especially with Beane. I mean, I was going to go, before you brought that up about the post-draft interview he had on the radio, I was going to bring it up and mention that. I mean, Bill Parcells famously said, if you want me to cook the dinner, you got to let me get the groceries. And I think Beane did a disservice to McDermott and what he put out there. I said it in the chat. I think Keon Coleman, a healthy scratch for most of the season. Khalil Shakir, 4 touchdowns this year. Curtis Samuel, 1 touchdown. I think Coleman had 4 touchdowns. Yesterday, that wide receiving crew, over the weekend, the wide receiving crew for the Bills had 111 total yards, and 75 of those were Khalil Shakir. You can't win in this league, and you can't win in the playoffs with that kind of production. I mean, he just, the entire world, James Cook was getting the ball about 30 times on Saturday, and it's not surprising. I mean, I think Rappaport this morning, Ian Rappaport said he was shocked. I don't think it's a shock. It's more a surprise that McDermott's been let go. But that roster was hanging on barely. I mean, we saw last week in Jacksonville. I mean, it was James Cook, Josh Allen, and Kincaid and Knox. They're the ones that got him over the line eventually, apart from that Brandon Cooks catch at the end. But the wide receiving core has been vastly deficit. There's been a big deficit in them all season, and it kind of came home to roost on Saturday. I think that Allen is suffered because of that. He's put his body in extreme situations that he shouldn't have been put in, and James Cook has been running the ball way too much because of the dearth of wide receivers. But but you flip all that, and then we always say the NFL is a results business, and unfortunately, he's 8-8 in the playoffs, 98-50 in the regular season, 0-3 in playoffs in overtimes. I mean, in overtime, that's when you make your bones in the NFL. You got to produce when the lights are the brightest. And unfortunately, McDermott, I mean, he's been there since 2017. I mean, he's had a lot of opportunities. The Pagula family, they just ran out of patience. I don't know whether it was the fact that they didn't have Mahomes or Burrow or the rest of the cats in the playoffs. But Allen turns 30 in May. We talk about it with Mahomes. I mean, you've got to make hay while the sun shines. And unfortunately, McDermott was a casualty of that. But I just don't like it. Doesn't seem right that Beane gets a promotion over what he's done. I mean,
that's the thing that doesn't sit right with me either. It's okay. I can make the argument for Sean McDermott being fired, and I could probably make an equally strong argument that you might just as well stick with them. And it's not all down to poor coaching by any means that they haven't made it to the promised land. There's a lot of other factors at play there, but I cannot see how you're rewarding the GM for, as you say, providing Sean McDermott with arguably the worst roster, certainly offensively, that he's had in his last at least 3-4 seasons in Buffalo, thinking back from my perspective, and expecting him to go and win in this year. And I do think, and maybe, I'd like to get your perspective on this, Kieran O'Donovan. At some level, you can't tell me that a factor in this isn't no Burrow, no Mahomes, no Lamar in the playoffs, and that Buffalo kind of got wrapped up into this whole fan narrative and media narrative that this is Buffalo's year, and if they don't get it this year, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, and that, like, look, the Brandon B decision, it reeks of some, it reeks of injustice and politics and scapegoatism, or whatever you want to call it. There just is no logical explanation for that, except for except it might be an excuse to bring in another GM who might make better decisions than Brandon Bean did, and what kind of a role is the president, the presidential role that he's taking on. So maybe it's a nice way of solving a problem without having to can the GM. Yeah. It is really, it's because the level of expectation in Buffalo is Super Bowl or failure, because of the fact that Josh Allen is on the field, and it has come to the point where now they feel that Sean McDermott has had this window for so long. He's had them at the doorstep, and yeah, I agree with you. I think the fact that the other big names that you mentioned weren't in the running this year, it really, I suppose, it highlighted the or maybe magnified the disappointment that was the loss at the weekend. And you saw it. I mean, nobody, you'd have to be made of stone not to feel for Josh Allen and his teammates, the way he let it all out. And I mean, he accepted full responsibility for the fact that he had one of those days. He just had one of those days, and we'll get into the game in a minute. I mean, they wouldn't have been in a position to win any game without Josh Allen. So we're not gonna hammer him for that loss. But I too see the logic in firing Sean McDermott. I think Dan Orlovsky, I looked at his reaction. He said the same. I can understand it. I like Sean McDermott. A lot of people actually said they like Sean McDermott as a coach. They think he's a really good coach, but they can still understand the logic. Two things can be true. It's a results-based business, and at some point something is going to have to give. But it just makes for an interesting conversation. And a lot of the reason, I know I'm harping back to the Packers. A lot of the, I suppose, the pushback on those who were maybe calling for Matt LaFleur to be fired was, well, who else would you have in that position? I mean, who else is out there that's going to take him to the next level? And I was trying to think back to a team like this. When was the last time a team was maybe built up and on the precipice and on the cusp and replaced the coach and actually went and had success?
Well, I think the example that's often thrown out there, and it's a flawed one, is Philadelphia. They move on from Andy Reid, and he goes on and wins in Kansas City, and they win a Super Bowl. But like, that's you're skipping over quite a few fruitless seasons before you get from one to the other. There's no direct line there.
No, the one I'm thinking of is when Tony Dungy came into the Bucs in the late 90s and built them up from absolute no-hopers to contenders. And they went they had playoff failure after playoff failure. And I've heard you here on America's Game, Warren Sapp talks about it. And what's his name, the 49ers GM, John Lynch, he talks about it. They absolutely loved Tony Dungy, but you couldn't escape the fact that while he had a generational defense, he didn't hold the offense to the same standard. And then they went out and got John Gruden, and they had almost immediate success. So, I mean, that's the one that kind of sticks out with me. But you're kind of wondering who's going to come in.
Tony Dungy went and won a Super Bowl anyway. So.
And absolutely, but and that's another part of the point. If he gets the sack with one team, there's many coaches have been fired that have gone on to win Super Bowls. So it doesn't mean Sean McDermott can't have success anywhere else. I mean, you talk about Andy Reid. So it's just another interesting turn of events in that coaching carousel. And now what are we up to? 10 coaches, or 10 coaching vacancies. A third of the league is
one in three. Yeah, 1 in 3 coaches in the league. It's crazy.
Yeah. But again, that's the win now attitude in the NFL, and it just makes for another piece in the puzzle for this offseason and for the next few weeks.
If only someone had told me that the billionaire owner who's had everything going his way his entire life wanted everything to continue to go his way, whether it does so or not. Anyway,
and the one that struggles to make any change are the publicly owned team.
Yeah, God bless the socialist Packers. Kieran Boyle, let's talk about how the Bills ended up in that position. It's a dramatic game against the Broncos, and we can look at the turnover, or was it a turnover? Ultimately, it was. And you can look at the a couple of the turnovers in particular that the Bills made, but they also had the plays to win that game. And there was one throw in particular that stuck in my mind, which is the throw that Josh Allen had to Dawson Knox. He's made much harder throws than that. It was he's going to walk in like he's leading Knox. It's just a little bit too high, and it goes off his hands, and it's incomplete. That's the walk-off touchdown to win the game. And you've seen Josh Allen do it 100 times. It's not an easy throw, but it's one that Josh Allen makes. To me, that's why he's in tears after the game. Like when he's thinking, I let my team down. It's not the fumbles. Like a lot of that, like, and they were some great defensive plays in there as well. It's not like Josh Allen is throwing the ball around or dropping it. There were some great defensive plays to make that happen as well. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's throws like that, and it's very unfair, and he shouldn't be down on himself. And I think we all had a lump in our throat watching that, and watching his O-lineman, his left tackle, Deion Dawkins, when he was asked about it in his own locker appearance, and he just said, he ain't let us down, and then turns away, and he can't face any more questions because he starts crying. Like it's theater, isn't it? Sorry, I feel for them, and your heart breaks for them, but geez, you wouldn't have it any other way. Like, oh, cry a bit more. It's box office. It's why we love it.
Well, you're 100% right. I mean, I think that's why he was so crestfallen in the press conference, because he knew the game was there. I mean, the Bills, notwithstanding all the turnovers, I mean, they had more total yards than the Broncos. They had more rushing yards. They had more rushing attempts. They had more yards per rush. I mean, in a lot of the big categories, they had enough to win the game. And I mean, nobody would have begrudged them if they did pull it off. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have nightmares about that missed throw to Knox. I mean, that's one of those almost career defining. I mean, if he'd made that catch, or if he'd made that throw and the Bills score, and then they're the championship game, I mean, it's a whole different, it's a whole different ball game. But unfortunately, he's got the whole of the off season to ponder that and think about what could have gone wrong. And I think on top of the game in Jacksonville, where he basically put the team in a book bag and put him on his back and ran through the field, he did the same thing again on Saturday. I mean, he turned the ball over, and there was, there were a couple of mea culpas involved in there. But I mean, I don't want to harp on the wide receiver room, but between him and Cook, I mean, it's really, the Broncos knew where the ball was going most of the time. Apart from a couple of seam throws to Knox and a nice throw to Kincaid in there as well. I mean, Kincaid at 83 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that was more than any of the wide receivers they had. And I think he's just. I mean, obviously, it was a heartbreaking moment to watch him like that in the press conference. But then, like you said, you see the rest of the players that were interviewed, and they're crestfallen too, because they realize that they've had a great chance and don't get any younger either. And it's just unfortunate that we'll talk about the Jaquan McMillan interception. Was it an interception? That'll be labored forever, but. For Allen, it's that missed throw to Knox. He won't care about the Cooks. That's not what's going to keep him up at night. It's that overthrow to Knox, and the game just passed them by. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the league. I got no skin in it. I don't care who's in the Super Bowl, but it would have been great on a competitive level to see a team firing on all cylinders against the Pats next week. But it is what it is. And it's there's been mountains written about this game and the implications, and it's already cost McDermott his job. There's going to be a lot of changes in Buffalo. You got to remember, they also have a new stadium that they're building that's going to be ready for next season. So they're going to want to come into the 2026 season with all guns blazing and really put the stamp on this on the division and just regroup into next year. But it's very unfortunate, and it's just a tough scene to watch. I don't want to say a good guy, but a real talented person and a better quarterback. So tough for the Bills. I mean, that's going to be a long off season for him.
Kieran O'Donovan, the Broncos won the game, and I know we've been focusing on the Bills because Sean McDermott was fired and because of the drama and the emotion attached to Josh Allen and what he said after the game. But the Broncos will also be devastated despite having won, because it's hard to remember a scenario like the one that unfolded. I think it's pretty much unprecedented, certainly in my time watching football, that a team wins. I mean, you've seen players get injured in the course of victory before a course, but I've never seen that scenario where you come off the field, there's elation, and then you find out an hour afterwards that actually their star quarterback, Bo Nix, is gone now for the rest of the season, and suddenly triumph turns, if not quite to despair, certainly to massive uncertainty about whether they can complete the journey now from here.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've been in different. I found it hard to make up my mind about Bo Nix as his couple of seasons have progressed. He was very impressive against the Packers in that win, But he went up in my book this weekend. I mean, he toughed it out, and on paper, he had a really good. He was close enough to 300 yards. He did a 3-touchdown game in a playoff game against one of the best players, possibly the best player in football at the moment, toe to toe. When all the talk was about Josh Allen, it wasn't the occasion wasn't too big for him, and coming off the field, he knew. You can see in that interview he did just coming off the field. He didn't make it about himself. He fought through tears. He was smiling. He was, all talk about the win, but he knew in that moment he's not going to play another part in this playoff run. So look, it just, to me, it stood out as a real indication of his character, and it is disappointing. I mean, you don't want to see anybody's best player, anybody's key player go out and lose out, and nobody. Nobody asked for Jared Stidham in an AFC Championship game, and yet give Jared Stidham his dues. You never know what the coming week will bring. You saw Sean Payton in the aftermath. He said, but when he was asked about Jared Stidham, he said, "Just watch," and he really emphasized his confidence in Jared Stidham. But it is important to remember that he did give.
Well, he's not going to turn around and say, "Oh my God."
No. I get that. But I mean, he has shown faith in Jared Stidham by extending his contract. I think he went out and signed him very early on in his tenure in Denver, and he survived a lot of quarterback turnover. They were giving him props. I think it was on NFL Daily during the week, where they said, in the preseason, I know it's only the preseason, but he absolutely balled out. And look, we're just going to have to wait and see. Nobody expected anything from Nick Foles in 2017. You just don't know. And it's one game. I mean, he could go out and have the absolute game of his life next week and have them in a Super Bowl. We spoke about it very briefly, Kieran. Neither of us in our instant reaction last night were giving Denver too much hope behind Jared Stidham next week. Having said that, it's not beyond the realms of possibility for a little bit of complacency to creep into some of these young players in New England as well, and maybe take this a little bit for granted now that it's set up as an absolute gimme according to everyone that you ask.
Well, Kieran Boyle will have 2 words for you, and those will be Jeff and Hostetler in that order. Cometh the hour, sometimes cometh the man. It's not always the man that you expect. The man that we expected to be.
And there's a lot of there are a good few instances. There's a good few examples of backups going all the way in NFL history as well. So yeah, it's possible.
No, it certainly is. Kieran Boyle, the man that we expected a lot more from was CJ Stroud at the weekend. Myself, Shane, and Brian were doing the live watch along in Greco Studios on Sunday evening. Along to this one, we picked probably the worst game of the weekends to do the watch along for, unfortunately. But we kept ourselves entertained, so that's the main thing. But we said right at the start of the game, CJ Stroud had 5 turnovers in the wildcard round. You can't win playoff games like that. And at least that was one thing we were right about, because CJ Stroud went and pretty much did exactly the same thing again. And sure enough, this time they didn't get away with it.
Yeah, that was a brutal watch. I mean, a lot was made before the game about the weather conditions and, Houston playing indoors and they're going out into that. But, CJ Stroud played at Ohio State, and he played a lot of games up in the Midwest in difficult conditions. So I wasn't really, buying into that narrative. But man, that was a tough watch. I was doing the instant reaction with Kieran last night, and he looked lost. He looked, I mean, spooked. Just every throw, every time he dropped back, every throw you're like holding your breath, like where is it going to end up? Is it going to be picked off? Is it going where's it going to go? And that's not good at all. And I mean, it leads to more questions now than anything else, because I mean, are they going to pick up? They'll probably pick up the 5th-year option on him, but again, question marks. Is this the guy to lead this team? Because the defense is all world. I mean, it's absolutely rock solid. A team that generally you give up a touchdown or 2 and a couple of field goals, and you just let you let the offense just carry the rest of it. But it just wasn't happening. And again, we talked about Brandon Bean earlier. I can't let Nick Caserio off the hook with this either, because we knew Tank Dell wasn't there, and we knew that Nico Collins was going to be out. But there doesn't seem to be any contingency plan to help out Stroud in any way. I mean, yeah, they got a couple of wide receivers out there. They picked up Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is a wide receiver 3 probably at best, and they had him out there as a wide receiver 1. He can't do it all himself. And they got, not only that, but they're relying on Woody Marks, a rookie out of USC, who had 14 carries for 17 yards. Then you're relying on Ayrton Ursary, another rookie at left tackle. He's not ready for that just yet. And then you've got Higgins and Noel, more rookies. So I think Caserio there has to be some blame apportioned to him too, because we already know that Diggs is gone. So that's that's one out of the three that you already had. And then when the other two kind of wide receiver 1 and 2 are gone, you can't rely on backups. And that was a huge part for me that Stroud, it was too hard, notwithstanding the defense of the Pats, but it was just too hard for him to get into any rhythm. Nothing seemed that it was cohesive. He seemed startled. He seemed, out of sorts. I don't know what, obviously the Pats defense is phenomenal, but he's been able to work through a 10 win streak in this league and being able to stay on the Jags' tail the entire season. So it's just huge question marks now in Houston, because this is a team that, I've thought they've been able to do it in the last couple of years, but is he, you look around the team now, is he the problem? I mean, you're going to have to draft a running back to help out Woody Marks if Woody Marks is the guy, but you got to help out the wide receiver. When Schultz went down, that was a big blow to them as well, because that's a big safety net for Stroud. But I mean, we can say all those things, but ultimately it's got to come down to the leader on the team. And he just didn't perform as a leader. He didn't perform when the lights were the brightest. And it was I don't want to say, a startling game or a surprising game from him, but, people expect a lot more from somebody like CJ Stroud, who performed in college and he had a great rookie year. Can we really say that he's done all that well after his rookie year? I mean, they had a down year last year. But I mean, there's going to be some serious questions in Houston about is Stroud the guy?
I heard you guys talking in the instant reaction show, and Kieran O'Donovan, you made a really good point about that moment. And I remember us talking about it at the time when the Bears played the Texans and CJ Stroud was playing the big man, the veteran, in his second year after he'd balled out in year one and got into the Texans to the playoffs, and the Texans beat the Bears, and Caleb doesn't have a great game, and appearance kind of brush off CJ Stroud. Nope. Did you lose me there for a sec?
Lost you there for a second.
Full
sorry.
flow. But I was, you were making the point that, CJ Stroud appears to try and lean in Caleb Williams' ear and offer him a bit of advice. And, you were saying at the time, like, you've only been in the league a year rather. Calm down, big fella. And I mean, I wonder, for all of that, Bears fans were wondering this at the time. I was wondering this at the time. Did the Bears make a mistake? Should they have actually gone with the pick that they had that year and taken CJ Stroud instead of waiting a year for Caleb Williams? I don't think too many people are making that decision right now. And let's talk about we talk about the Patriots to be fair as well, because I thought it was a point really well made by you. Like, you gotta earn your stripes over a period of time, and maybe he was feeling it a little bit much in year one and year two, and he certainly doesn't look like the man right now. He's too talented not to come back, but he's got to go on a bit of a journey, a bit of a redemption arc. But what I was going to talk about is the Patriots won, and a lot of us picked them to win, and it wasn't a surprise that they won because they were playing at home and they've been on that great run. The way that they won, though, surprised me, because I don't necessarily think that their offense balled out. It wasn't a brilliant Drake May game. Shane Brennan was talking about how surprised he's been that the Patriots have stepped up so much defensively. And I know you love an L pop culture reference, Kieran. But one thing that I'd be concerned about from a Patriots perspective is, I don't know if you've seen the Nick Cage movie Dream Scenario, where people are dreaming that Nick Cage's character, he's in all their dreams. That entire Patriots O-line and Drake May himself are going to be dreaming about Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson coming gunning for them. The left side of that Patriots line is still a worry. And if there's one thing that's going to hold them back from winning a Super Bowl, it's trying to withstand the Broncos pass rush next week.
Yeah, and it's not as if they didn't see it coming. We talked all week, we talked all season about Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, and they had 5 sacks between them. It was, and that's what we talk. Look, okay, we're talking about it on offense. You want to see the stars show up, but when everybody's talking about you all week long, and that the opposition is scheming for you, and not just you, but you're top of the list, and you go out and ball out like that, it is just it's an absolute sign that you're two absolute studs. Like, they were stars every time Will Anderson came around the corner. And even I was laughing when talking to Sean Prendergast the other night. He was joking. He was being facetious about, you know, teams chip blocking them, and you know, oh yeah, God, we've never seen that before. God, we're terrified of being chipped, of having the lads chipped. Every time they tried to chip him with a receiver or a tight end, Will Anderson, it was almost like, okay, go away, you're just a nuisance. And around the corner he came. And I mean, Drake May, like the Patriots won, Drake May fumbled the ball 4 times. It was even lucky they got 2 of them back. But it was like Will Anderson was a nuisance, and then Daniil Hunter straight up the middle. 5 sacks between them. It was incredible. But questions going into next weekend again, probably the second week in a row where Will Campbell was not, I suppose, didn't inspire confidence.
Came out swinging during the week after that Chargers game, and how he felt disrespected and how he was going to show everybody. He didn't show us much.
No, and I think, to be fair, he said all the right things. He said he doesn't pay into the pay into the buzz on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. He mentioned keyboard warriors, and he as I said, he said the right things. He holds himself to a very high standard, but he was shown up again. The only caveat to that is it was 2 of the best, the best pass rush in the league, but he's coming up against pretty much the second best or on an even keel. It's not going to get much easier for him next week.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to like roach Cooper and Benito too much if he didn't fancy his Hunter and Anderson diet over the weekend.
Yeah, and we talked about Drake May, and I mentioned he fumbled the ball 4 times, but what I do like about him is he showed up in the big moments again. I mean, his stats didn't jump off the page. He had a 20 QBR or something like that, 20.8. But he found his guys when he had to find them. He had some great scrambles, and I like him. I think he is the real deal. I know he got some, someone warranted criticism about the strength of schedule, and that he was probably built up a little bit too much. But he faced a lot of pressure this year, and I've seen him show up in big moments, and I think Shane Brennan, as a Patriots fan, is going to be happy with what they have for the long term. He found his boys in Pop Douglas, Diggs, and the booty call down the side, and a catch worthy of winning any playoff game.
We've had all season to work on booty puns, and everybody still jumps on the booty call. Like
it's the easiest one. I threw in a bootylicious last night on the comment section, but I know you could do better than that. I apologize. I'll be back next week with something.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on it during the week. We'll put in the reps on the training ground. Don't worry. We'll have all the booty you need at the weekend.
Quick word.
It was I've been bashing ages though, wasn't it?
Sorry, guys. Quick word. I've been bashing the GMs all broadcast, but you got to give the Pats and Wolf credit. I've talked about it before, but the free agent acquisitions that they've made. I mean, that's turned this team around. Bradbury, Milton Williams get with that playoff experience from the Eagles from last year. Bringing Stephon Diggs in. I mean, a lot of people have question marks about that. Carlton Davis, Spillane, even the center Garrett Bradbury. So I will give props to Wolf and obviously with Vrabel as well. But I mean, that's a scary team going forward now.
Yeah, it certainly will be a scary prospect.
Henderson and Stevenson as well, when they had to do it, when they had to have them at the end, we'd said it last night, they trucked it up the middle, got yard after yard against one of the best defenses in the league, and just finished the job. It was really emphatic at the end.
Yeah, and as you were saying, Kieran Boyle, on the instant reaction, completely shut down the Texans' own running game, and it was embarrassing for Marks and Chubb at one stage. They just weren't getting any traction at all, and that pretty much was the pattern of the game for them. We'll talk about the NFC Divisional Round games after this quick break.
Great odds, you're in control, you always bet responsibly, and you're not afraid to choose alternatives. That's why you bet with QuinnBet. Build your own unique football bets with Create a Bet. Winning team, first goal scorer, number of goals, the possibilities are endless. And with a 4-star Trustpilot customer service rating, why not give QuinnBet a shot? QuinnBet, we bet you love it.
Now, I wouldn't be one for throwing out compliments to our colleague Brian O'Leary, but when he's right, he's right. All of us on the show actually picked the Seahawks to beat the Niners, but while most of us thought it would be close, Brian leaned into it and said he could see the Seahawks pulling away, and he thought this would be the most one-sided playoff game of the weekend. And so it was, Kieran O'Donovan. The 49ers, unfortunately, came to a bridge too far for them. When we talked about it briefly over the weekend, we were saying it's hard to to criticize what they've managed to accomplish this season, because in many ways they had no business being in the divisional round with all the adversity they faced, but they clawed their way to get there. They absolutely emptied the tank and were unlucky on short rest again to be sent into Lumen Field, which is a coliseum to be bringing a team into now.
Yeah, they ran into an absolute buzzsaw. And as you rightly said, we can't give the 49ers enough credit, and you really can't be too critical of them for this loss. But the injuries coupled with just meeting the Seahawks, it's funny when you have the bye and you have the rest. When you win big, the rest is the best thing you could have ever had. And if you lose, I thought they were fierce.
They were cold, yeah.
yeah. So, but they were absolutely ready to play, and it was the very first moment on that kick return from Shaheed. I mean, the loudest stadium in the NFL was just absolutely erupted. The videos are brilliant to watch, and you could keep watching different angles, different crowds, and different sections of the stadium. But yeah, ran into an absolute buzzsaw. The perfect playoff game for Sam Darnold, because he didn't have to be anything except serviceable. That's all he had to be, because the rest of the guys, and that's absolutely fine in my book as well. He needed that for himself to get off the ground. They didn't need him to put up any heroics. The heroics came from Kenneth Walker, from the defense, from the offensive line, in blocking, and it was just an absolute clinic from start to finish. And we're talking about GMs here, and rightly so, giving Wolf the credit. We've talked about Les Snead an awful lot and Howie Roseman for the Eagles, but you have to give John Schneider a huge amount of credit for what he's done in such a quick period of time. We talked in the offseason about, even in the acquisition of Sam Darnold, trusting him to be the guy that they wanted, in taking over at quarterback, not worrying about whether
in the big decisions Schneider has made about who to ship or whom to ship out the door. Got rid of Russell Wilson, well, at a time when a lot of people thought Russell Wilson had more in the tank than he turned out to have. Sent DK Metcalf to the Steelers because they knew what they had in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Made the call to get rid of Geno Smith and pick up Sam Darnold. I mean, these are not decisions that everybody was looking at and saying, this is the right move. A lot of people were saying, what are you doing? Keep them all in the building. Where are you going?
Yeah, and not trying to be too smart in the draft, like going exactly with what was expected. The offensive line, going with Gray Zabel, picking up Nick Emanwari in the second round. It just looks like a really, really clinical job. Cooper Kupp, who will have added his experience and had shown up now in some big moments as well, in receiving. So it's just the momentum is building in Seattle, and it's just set itself up for an absolute classic. We've talked about trilogies and how we had the Bears Packers trilogy. We were denied another trilogy. Which one am I thinking of? But we've had 3 in the playoffs. We could have had 4. But those kind of in season soap operas that you get. We're going to have the conclusion now of Rams Seahawks next weekend, and now that a lot of our teams are no longer in the mix, we're all here for that matchup, and I'm sure Ben Costello is absolutely chomping as well.
And he'll be chomping, Kieran, in particular, Ben, a Seahawks fan, at that defense, which, I mean, we watched the Texans and the Seahawks defense show the absolute best of what they can offer. It's very difficult to pick between the two of them. I think they're two of the best that I've seen do it in a long time. And one of the things that frightens me about the prospect of playing Seattle, which actually looked like it might be a prospect for the Bears up to a certain point over the weekend, and we'll get to how that turned out not to be the case. Their speed off the line of scrimmage, their speed all over. I mean, they are just so aggressive. They got the real twitchiness to them. They're on you before you even figure out what they're trying to do. They're just incredibly quick, aggressive, ball hungry, rally to the flag on every given play. I love watching them. They're one of the few teams that you're actually looking forward to them being on defense, because you wonder what they're going to cook up next.
Yeah, we talked about the Patriots and their success with the free agents acquisitions, and the fact that they're hungry, they want to go to a winning team, and they want to succeed. I mean, is it too soon to call this LOB Mark II? I mean, we all saw with Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, all those guys. I mean, this is arguably a more complete unit than that secondary that Seattle had. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, just an absolute monster. You get those two ex-Giants, Julian Love and Big Cat Williams. Ernest Jones, I mean, he was ferocious on Sunday. Emanwari, obviously the draft pick. Kobe Bryant. It's just from top to bottom, that defense is phenomenal. And you're right, you call it exactly. It's the speed. It's that tackle that DeMarcus Lawrence had, and then Emanwari picked up the ball. I mean, it's just they're playmakers from top to bottom everywhere. The linebackers, especially the secondary, but that front four, I mean, it's just they're a phenomenal unit to watch. You can tell they're hungry. They're being coached phenomenally as well, and it's a joy to watch.
And can I just make a point on that? To give further credit to John Schneider, who goes against the grain and picks a defensive-oriented head coach. He was criticized for that one as well. Like, why would you go for Mike McDonald when you could have brought in some fashionable offensive mastermind? Absolutely the right call.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all see it this time of the year. Who's the teams with the best defenses are generally the ones that go the farthest, and you don't even have to be that talented on offense to keep moving. I'll give you the 42 and the 46 Super Bowl Giants right there. But I mean, it's the speed, it's the hunger, it's the age in the NFL when everyone's all about me and the bling and all this and that. They play as one. They play for each other, and it's obviously this is we're talking before mega contracts come kicking in, but I mean they're united behind the one purpose. They're not united behind Emanwari getting a nice bonus or a big contract. They're looking for the ring. That's all they're looking for. And whatever's going to get that done is what's going to be done on the field. A brotherhood. I mean, we know what football is like. It's a fiercely ferocious game, and you have to have that brotherhood. You have to have the trust. You have to have the camaraderie, and you can see it in spades in Seattle. I mean, it just reeks of that place. It reeks of confidence. It reeks of arrogance almost. It reeks of just pure grit and just pure. I don't want to call it. Bad intentions, but when they put their hands on an offensive player, it's a bad time for everybody. So it's a great, again.
You stay hit when you get hit by that.
I don't know if you guys remember that Terry Tate office linebacker videos.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
here come the pain train.
That's woo, that's how they are. It's just absolutely.
You killed a Joe, you get some.
You make some more.
Put that humpy bumpy in here. I mean,
you can't cut the cheese wherever you please.
It's just they're great to watch. I mean, like you said, like Kieran said, with Purdy, not Purdy. Darnold didn't have to do anything. I think he threw the ball 27 times, 140 yards, but just sit back and let the defense get the ball back and just terrify the offense into giving you the ball back. It's great. They're great to watch. I'm not going to say they're going to be in the Super Bowl, but I mean, would anybody really argue if Seattle ended up in Santa Clara? I know I wouldn't.
Before we get dinged for three middle-aged white guys, go and look at that classic Reebok ad it's an absolute joy. It's very, very funny. Terry Tate, office linebacker.
We'll put it on
not cultural appropriation, but cultural appreciation.
We'll put it on the Twitter feed for everybody.
Yeah, you can enjoy that later at your delectation and at your discretion as soon as we've finished up here. Kieran O'Donovan, we saw in Soldier Field yet again the cardiac Caleb show, but what we also saw was that Matthew Stafford is the original Iceman, and not the weather and not the Bears defense, and not a great day from him could deter him from doing what needed to be done when it absolutely needed to be done. And Kieran Boyle just talked about the Seahawks brotherhood being united by the quest for the ring. Rams after their second ring, and they're not going to give that quest up easy.
No, it was Matthew Stafford when you absolutely had to have it. But once again, almost for the third time in a row, not the very best version of the Rams that you want to see. And fair, you can talk about the cold weather and how much of a factor that became. But for this one, I think I give a lot of credit to the Bears, having watched the game the week before. And having seen the Packers run up and down the field in the first half, there was no sign that this was going to be the case in the first half yesterday. I mean, you look at the likes of is it Jaquan Brister? I think he had something like 14 tackles. He was flying all over the field. Their coverage was so much improved from the get-go last night. You have to give the Bears huge amount of credit defensively for what they did. And on the offensive side of the ball, the Rams, I was interested listening to the NFL Daily today. They mentioned how self-critical Sean McVay was. He was really hard on himself in the wake of the game as to how he didn't adjust soon enough because he went so pass heavy in the first half when a lot of people were clamoring for them to run the ball, and that proved to be what probably got the momentum going back in their favor. Kyron Williams ended up with I don't think he went over 100 yards, but I mean he had those big moments. But from the Rams' point of view, not the very best version. We're still not seeing. We didn't have a big Puka night last night. We didn't have a huge amount of input from Devontae Adams. But yeah, absolutely, Matthew Stafford gives you what you want from a seasoned vet.
No back-breaking mistakes though, which was interesting to me. Special teams did what it needed to do. Nothing fancy, but nothing wrong. Stafford didn't have a great night, and he was definitely rattled because he was put under pressure. That's not all on him, but there was no back-breaking picks. There was nothing stupid.
No special teams calamity either as well, which has hurt them. And as you said, look, I tee you up to talk about Caleb Williams. I was joking with you a while ago. I said that what they have now is this generation's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to give you some of the most inexplicably mind-blowing, talented moments. In that, someone said about the throw to get them back in the game, the touchdown pass where he ran back. I don't know, it must have been like 40 yards before he launched the ball.
It was a 14-yard touchdown pass that traveled 51.4 yards in the air. That's how far he had to run back.
The best description I saw of that touchdown pass was someone said, if that's me, if I'm playing Madden and that happens, I break the TV. So
we've all been there. I absolutely sympathize with that one. I have several broken controllers. I've never broken a TV because of shit just like that.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe how open Kmet was in that corner of the end zone with two defenders.
In the vicinity. Gives up on the play because he's like, "There's no way." As everybody in the stadium and everybody watching it thought. I mean, you heard Mike Tirico in the broadcast say, "I don't believe this team."
Yeah. It's incredible. And it's a testament to the belief that this team has. And you mentioned that sliding doors moment with Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud. I penny for his thoughts in that moment because he knows how good he is. And as I said, you might have this generation's Aaron Rodgers. And if he has the belief that Aaron Rodgers in his own ability that he has or had, you're in for 10 to 15 years of pure joy watching Caleb Williams, and possibly heartache and moments of madness as well, because there's genius in him,
That's all part of it. Like I was thinking of that great quote from the Mission Impossible series. Fate whispers to the warrior, "You cannot withstand the coming storm." The warrior whispers back, "I am the storm." Like Caleb Williams is just he brings that chaos, doesn't he? And there's maddening moments that come with it. But what team doesn't want?
Yeah, sorry, kind of go on.
No, I was just going to say, what team doesn't want a player like that who delivers to his best, as you say, Kieran Boyle, when the lights are brightest? That seems to be when you get the best out of him. And yeah, he threw the pick at the end of the game, but I don't blame him or Ben Johnson for going big game hunting. That's what got them there in the first place. I mean, you're looking at, and I was thinking about this just before we came on, you think when he threw that insane pass across his body into the back of the end zone against the Vikings, you think, wow, that's about the best he can do. That's the best version of Caleb. And that's just a couple of weeks before he hits the walk-off touchdown to DJ Moore against the Packers. And you think, well, no, that's the best he can do. And then he hits the 4th and 8 pass that we've all talked about to Roma Dunze, and you think, well, he's never going to top that. And he tops it the following week. Like, we're talking about these throws. Like, these are the kind of throws that you look back on in some quarterbacks, if they can even do it in the first place. And that will be highlights of, years. This is like the course of 5 games. At times, he really is just genuinely ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's even as he's running backwards, and we've talked about it with some of the best quarterbacks like Mahomes. The power that he generated on that, going backwards, like physically, it looked just completely inexplicable how he generated enough power to get the ball down the field. I'm not going to talk about whether you or I or any of us here could make that throw, but it just seems like you'd have to throw an awful lot of momentum with your legs behind that and get yourself moving forward.
Try throwing a football 50 yards and look at the kind of wind up, and you have to be running forward and you have to get your hip into it and throw it. He's like you say, he's going backwards. It just doesn't seem physically possible to have that kind of velocity out of the arm. But I remember seeing him warming up when we were in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a couple of years ago. It's the first time I'd seen him in the flesh, and even in the warm-ups, you're like, wow, because you're watching the other quarterbacks, of course, warm up at the same time, Tyson Bagent, and you're watching Trevor Lawrence, who's not exactly weak in the arm department either. And I was looking back and forward across the pitch, and just the velocity with which the ball is leaving his arm is just at a different level. You can even see it on short throws. I mean, at times, actually, it counts against him. He does what Josh Allen did in the early part of his career. He's got extra mustard on everything. Like, maybe just hold the mustard occasionally, Caleb. It's only going 5 yards. You know, you don't need to put it through the guy. But you know, that's the experience, and we've lived with it often enough. And unfortunately for the Bears, Kieran, they die this weekend, but probably go out of the season with quite a bit of hope. And it was interesting that nobody seemed to be devastated, but they also didn't look to be elated to be in the divisional round. As a team that didn't look like that was their final destination, or that they had the sense that they were ahead of schedule. They looked like they felt they belonged and that they genuinely thought they could win.
Well, they did. I mean, there's a couple of different kind of storylines in this. The Chicago's finally got a quarterback. I mean, arguably, Connor, you might be able to answer this better. Is this the best kind of scenario for quarterbacks in Chicago since Jim McMahon in the 80s? I mean, I can't think of anybody.
This is the best scenario for quarterbacks in Chicago since Sid Luckman. I mean, there's no question that Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than Jim McMahon. And,
right.
You know, no disrespect to Jim McMahon, who did what we all wanted him to do and delivered Chicago to the promised land, but he also had Walter Payton and 46 defense.
True. He did electrify. He electrified the organization and the crowd. I mean, you know, he made he's partly responsible for not infamous, but a world famous SNL sketch with the Bears. But
yeah.
it's
and he won a Super Bowl with the Packers as well, which Kieran had done.
I was gonna say it.
But you know, there's been Connor, you'll know more than anybody. There's been years, even decades of, you know, no quarterback play at all. I mean, you've had Jay Cutler for a minute, but other than that, it's been a barren wasteland for so long. The thing with Williams, and again, I'll harp on it. I watched him in college quite a lot. Question what, you know, where, you know, how would the transition to the pros be? And you know what? He's gone way past what I thought it would be, but he's got something right now, and he's shown in the last month, just in a 4-week span of his career, he's shown what people can't do. You can't coach clutch. The amount of fourth down throws that he's made, he has a reputation now. Players get reputations for everything. I mean, reputations for slacking off, reputations for only producing when the lights are brightest, only producing when it's, you know, there's a contract on the line. But he's out there now proving to everybody game after game that he's clutch, and you can rely on him to bring the team back. What's that, the seventh fourth quarter comeback of the season? I mean, it's really remarkable to watch. I mean, the poise he has, the confidence. I mean, it's definitely confidence. I mean, you'll get that from playing at USC, where you're treated like a god at the quarterback position. But he's transitioned really well. I mean, obviously the coaching is a big part of it too, but it's the clutch thing for me. I mean, we talk about quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls. Eli Manning, can anybody pinpoint much of Eli's career outside of 42 and 46? He had a couple of nice seasons, but for the most part, he missed the playoffs. But when the lights were the brightest and when the moment needed it, he produced. And there's been players like that in the history of the NFL. But Caleb Williams,
Eli was fascinating to me, to your point. I mean, people forget in 42 in particular, I mean, he threw interceptions by the ton during the regular season and not one during the playoffs. Like you say, when it counted most, he looked after the ball and he did what needed to be done. Right.
And that's the reputation that Williams has now. People forget about the finger, the nail painting, and all the other histrionics that were going on preseason or even last season. You know, now it's the guy, you know, this is the guy you want with the ball. He's you saw the crowd. I mean, is there anywhere better than Soldier Field in a playoff game? I mean, please don't put a roof or any kind of a dome in that city, because
I don't want to be telling my grandkids that there used to be snow games. Like I hate that the NFL is going in that direction. Like, this is the most, like, God love the players having to play in it, obviously, but this is the most romantic image we have in football. It's the snowfall in a January playoff game and two teams just going at it in conditions that you wouldn't put a dog out in.
Right. And we had them back to back yesterday. It was beautiful. You know, just park yourself in front of the TV and watch cinema. But
it's a slow-mo football cutting through the flakes like the Adam Vinatieri kick. This is what you want to see all day long.
Yeah.
Just get straight to my veins.
Exactly. But you know, the thing with Chicago, and you know, I don't want to use the phrase playing with house money, because they wanted to go a lot further. But you know,
you should definitely use that phrase.
a lot of people in Chicago will be happy regardless of the result today, because you've got a quarterback who you can rely on. You got a coach who's obviously, you know, set himself up for for the
Imagine
future.
Ben Johnson was available in this coaching carousel. There'd be killings.
Yeah, he'd probably end up in Tennessee or something. But I mean, it's really looking good for Chicago. You know, the squad they have. I mean, again, we'll talk about GM acquisitions and what they've done in the draft. I mean, look at what they picked up: Burden, Loveland. I mean, they all contributed hugely. DeAndre Swift had a great game. I mean, it's just, I mean, they outrushed the Rams. They did everything they needed to do. I mean, Caleb will want that overtime throwback, but I mean, the future's bright if you're a Bears fan. I wouldn't be too down on it. I mean, they gave us one of the moments. I mean, I don't want to get too dramatic about it. I mean, I was watching the game with my son and some of his friends, and when Caleb made that throw, I mean, we're watching him go back to the halfway line, and we're like, what the hell is he doing? And then when Kmet pushed off Lake and made that catch, I mean, there's only a handful of plays in the history of the NFL that people can just recall just like that. I mean, you got the Dwight Clark catch, you got the immaculate reception. I mean, are we being too far-fetched to say that that's up there, one of the top NFL moments of all time? I mean, it was absolutely just pure theater. Like you said, the snow, the crowd going bananas, and the most improbable throw and the most improbable catch you could probably ever imagine in such a needed moment.
It needs a name. It needs a memorable name.
That's the
what cements it. So answers on a postcard, please.
I think, and not to be a buzzkill, but I think you only get names for those kind of moments if your team wins the game, and that's not me being smart, but I think it's a reality though.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say, I thought the Rams were cooked after that. I was like, oh, there's no. Just give it to them now, Rams. I mean, there's no way you can come back from that.
Imagine how fun it will be now over the next couple of years, and you can imagine it already. They must practice it a ton because they know who Caleb Williams is. But imagine watching them practice scramble drills in training. Just being a member of the public watching that, I'd say it must be a great crack. And even for the receivers, just getting down there, pushing off defenders, and just keeping things alive and making yourself open. It's really like it looks like real sandlot football, you know?
Yeah, big time. But Kieran O'Donovan, last word maybe on the Rams, who, after all, advanced to the championship game. We spent a lot of time talking about the Bears. It's the Rams who will take on the Seahawks, their familiar divisional foe, as you say, yet another divisional matchup, and completing the trilogy there. They didn't look the best version of themselves, but in very difficult conditions at the weekend. They'll face equally difficult conditions, not least because of that hostile home crowd at Lumen Field. But we've been saying it all season, these two teams are probably the two most complete teams in the NFC, and it's the right matchup in the NFC Championship game when all is said and done. Whatever any other fans, myself included, might think, these two teams deserve to be there. They are, for me, the two best teams in the NFC. I think they're the two best teams in the league, but we'll see whether that pans out.
Yeah, and it was the best division as well in the league. It was the best division by a bit, I think, especially in the NFC. So why would we be surprised that two teams from the NFC, when there was 3 teams in the division had 12 plus wins, so no complaints. And when we take off our own, I suppose our own rose tinted glasses, and when we put our own bias aside, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think these are two of the best teams, and overall, as Matthew Stafford is possibly, if not probably, going to be the MVP for a reason, and that's because they've been so dynamic. Even if they haven't been in the last 3 weeks, and we've seen this last year where the Rams defense had to come up big, and they won some dirty scrapes, or they scraped them through some really kind of not very interesting games to watch in the tail end of last season. And Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford were they conceded that fact that it's nice to win a game when your defense digs you out, and the defense showed up for the most part, and they had some crucial stops as well. They killed that Ben Johnson momentum, that fourth down aggression and third down aggression, and played into the decision as well. Very importantly for Ben Johnson not to go for 2 after that. After that. That touchdown, because he very, in fairness to Ben Johnson, he explained it very well. He said that the reason he didn't go for it was because those situations hadn't gone well for them early on in the game. And it's hard to argue with that, and you'd wonder how much sleep you lose wondering whether he should have gone for it.
I don't think you lose any, to your point, because the Rams had stoned them on a number of occasions, and you'll take more football over losing it there and then. I mean, imagine the air going out of the building, and then you're going to get killed for it for all time. Like, what are you doing? Like, they had all the momentum going into overtime. That's what everybody will say. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with that. And I think, to your point, I think he explained it very well.
It magnifies the importance of those defensive plays by the Rams. I mean, it might have saved a first down or two throughout the game, but it possibly saved the game in changing Ben Johnson's mentality. So I mean, you talk about literally a game of inches. If the Bears had a better conversion rate early on, I think they go for that all day, because that is his aggressive nature.
One massive red zone stop, two massive red zone stops. Otherwise, it's a different result. It doesn't even go to overtime. So you got to give them all the credit in the world as they head on to the championship game, where they will play the Seahawks, the Pats and Broncos, as we were saying, on the other side. We can't wait to get picking and previewing on Thursday on the Irish NFL Show.